Alright everybody, back again. This is round 8 now of the MoJo Showdown League races. And today, as you can see on the screen, we are at France, which is a pretty good track for me. I feel decently strong at the track. The only downfall of the track is it's another track with a lot of opportunities for slipstreaming. So going into this, I was expecting it to be a lot like our race was in Britain, if you guys remember that one, where basically me and Timo, the other front runner, were never outside of a second of each other. So going into this race, I was expecting the same thing. The strategy is different here though, where it's a mediums to hard strategy. So it's one-shot qualifying. You're gonna have to do that only lap on the harder tire. So there's an opportunity that someone could be on the softs, start ahead of you, and anything can happen from there. It's league racing. You never know what can what can happen with the cars in front. Ooh, need a sip of drink. Tonight we are drinking something in these parts we like to call a little snake in the mud. It's apple cider and Jaeger. Emphasis on the Jaeger. It's been a long week. Ooh, that's good. But as we load into this race, I was looking forward to it. Enjoy the track, feel confident, and as it stands after last week's race, we lead the Constructors' Championship by 2 points. Still have a mid 20 point lead in the Drivers' Championship, so we're looking good there, even though I'm yawning. Going into this, I had a hour-and-a-half race on Project Cards in the morning before this, so cat coming in the door. So headed into this, I had to wake up early, and sounds like I'm throwing out excuses, alright. Yeah, I had to wake up early. I was running on caffeine that day, so going into this, gonna run through the qualifying lap with you guys. Brake just a touch before game recommends there. You want to take a lot of curb, but not too much there. Can unsettle the car. Nice and smooth so far. Going into the end of this first sector before the long straight, really use the width of the track. I could have rode that curb on the inside there. Missed a little bit, erring a little bit on the side of caution, especially because it's one-shot qualifying. I need to make this lap count. Even if I don't stick it on pole, putting it on the front row is going to be necessary. Fighting from the back, you can kiss your chances of winning goodbye if the competition's quick. Unless if a safety car bails you out, but you always want to try to control your own destiny as much as possible. Here, nothing fancy, braking around red, using the curb again, being careful with the throttle on the exit. And yeah, so far so good, so far so smooth. Nothing heroic in this lap, but nice and solid. Again, using the width of the track. Always trying to look how to save every little bit of time. Adds up over the course of the lap, and what really separates the top drivers. Even if you're hitting your marks, if you're not using parts of the track that you can use, you're just not aware of that, you're going to lose time. Here, hugging the inside, not clipping the curbs though. You can get more out of the width of the track by hitting the curbs, but it unsettles the car enough that you'll be slower getting onto the throttle just by a little bit. And as we cross the line, it looked like it was pole. Qualifying complete came up right after I crossed the line, which is always a good sign. And yes, it was pole position. This was actually a redo. We had an issue in the previous lobby. We did the one-shot qualifying there, and I did get pole on that attempt before it was restarted there as well, but it was a very slight margin. And going into this, you actually saw Timo, no time set, he invalidated his lap. Very easy to do around this track. His mindset going into this was probably try to put it in pole, have a pace advantage, and pretty much do what I did to him in Britain, where even though he was in my slipstream the whole time, I stayed ahead for a long majority of the race. So he must have pushed a little bit too hard. And something I wanted to point out there on the screen was you saw that the other Williams was not Barkologist. The other Williams was actually Andrew, who is usually in Mercedes, which is another team that has potential to fight in the Constructors, because him and his teammate Pak2 something, he was not here this race. That's why I forget the name, because I don't see it on there. And they're both definitely upper field runners. So, and yes, this hoodie is very old. It's very worn. This is the hoodie I would wear when playing with the cat when she was young. Still young. Still hanging out with me. Oh yeah, that's the spot right there. And as you can see on the screen, just getting the strategy set, getting my fuel right. When I do practice runs, I know to the 10th how much fuel I need to put in the car if it's green the whole way through. It makes a very slight difference, but it makes a difference. You know, if you have an extra lap of fuel in the car, that's holding back your pace just a little bit for the entire race. No formation lap because it's one-shot qualifying and tires are set to surface only. Feels like a decent start. Timo on the mediums behind me as well, so he does not have a compound advantage off the line, and we're able to hold a lead off the start. It's what we love to see. So yeah, about what I was talking about earlier with the teams. Andrew, not racing in Mercedes, for some reason decided I'm going to switch to Williams, who's only 2 points behind in the constructors because he wanted to make the championship fight closer. But with the teams that are already here, it's already only a 2-point advantage, and after 7 races, and I'm here and Timo's here, the front runner for those 2 teams. My teammate's not here. Timo's teammate wasn't here for this race, so apparently that equals Williams needs another car. It seemed very weird going into this, and this is the most important part of the race that I'm talking about right now, because as you will see later, and as by whatever I end up making the title of this video, I mean, I don't know how to say it other than there was fuckery afoot, and we will get into that in due time. As you see on the screen, just hitting my marks, driving smooth, not getting myself an early penalty, and we have a nice early lead here, and everything is going currently as planned. Like I said, it's a mediums to hard strategy, so straightforward one-stop strategy. But right here I saw an opportunity because I knew that Timo was going to have to come up through the field. So this was an opportunity with my pace advantage over the rest of the field to break out of the DRS and not have to worry about that. Use a little bit more ERS than maybe I would want to at the beginning of a race like this that could be very slipstream heavy. But it'll be more than worth it if I can just ditch the back of the field. And as long as there wouldn't be a safety car, then it would be very, very difficult for anyone to be able to make up that gap starting from the back of the pack like Timo has to. So I saw this as another almost free opportunity to extend the championship lead. Oh, that's just right.
That was the fastest lap of the
Heading
race.
into the 3rd lap, we're setting fastest laps, DRS is enabled, and you're going to see me be stupid.
The car behind has started.
That's what
to
happens
drop
when you
back.
turn in
There's
too
a gap
early.
beginning to form.
Too much steering angle on that curve for the amount of speed the car was traveling, and I spin it like an idiot. So now we're down in P5 and we gotta make our way through the field, and this is obviously the last thing I wanted right now. And I believe that is Polka Daddy we have right in front of us. He is on the soft, so it may be a little bit difficult passing him, but we'll have the DRS here. Still got a decent amount of ERS. At least our rear tires aren't overheated, and he's not going to fight it. And we're going to get through one car, so we're back up immediately in the 4th. But yeah, now the tables have turned. I had pretty much an unsurmountable advantage regarding, you know, there was be no safety car over Timo, and now it's flipped the other way around where I'm really going to have to make a play to be able to make up that kind of a gap to Timo. I know to a lot of drivers that play the game, you know, you see a gap of anything other than under 20 seconds, you think, okay, well, over the course of the entire race you can get that. Maybe so, but when you're talking, when you're racing up against players that are in that top 1% of the game, the amount of time that you're talking that you have a chance of making up over the course of the race, you know, maybe 4 seconds, 5 seconds, you know, if you're only a couple tenths faster a lot, because it really does start coming down to tenth of a second. Like, if there's a driver that you know you regularly have like a 2/10 or 3/10 advantage over each lap on pretty much every track, that's a huge advantage. You know, as you get better at the game, those margins become so much smaller, which is why in lower level leagues or lower tiers of leagues, you see the field spread out a lot more, and when you get up to the esports drivers, they're all neck and neck, and pretty much a constant DRS train on every lap, on every track. So, speaking of DRS, it looks like we are going to be able to get into the DRS of the Ferrari. I'm not sure which Ferrari this was in front of me. As you see, I play without names, because they just get in my way. To be honest, like, it's just a visual thing in the way that doesn't need to be in the way. You know, it's not like I need to race anyone different. And generally speaking, if it's someone important in terms of your race, in terms of your championship fight, for example, you know who that car is beside you. You know, he lets me go there, I give him a little weave to say thank you. And maybe he didn't have to let me go so drastically, but the idea there is this actually makes his race faster in a way, because he doesn't lose time fighting with me, and he actually gains time for the little bit of slipstream that he could get from me there. You know, you sit in someone's slipstream like that down a long straight, that probably gave him a couple tenths. And he didn't lose any tenths for fighting me, so the only time he lost was there's a couple car lengths between me and him before he decided to let me go. And it helps me out as well, because obviously I don't have to use extra ERS or lose time fighting him. I just kept going through my lap, literally like he wasn't there. So that's why sometimes if you're in a situation where the car behind has a pace advantage, whether it's just they have a pace advantage or they have the tire advantage or whatever, you know, sometimes just letting them go and not fighting it like Polka Daddy have and like that Ferrari have can be better, because like I said, neither of you lose time, and you actually have the chance to gain time in your race if you can stick in their slipstream a little bit. So thinking the long haul is always a good strategy, especially when you're in the midfield too, because when you get in the midfield of any league, no matter how good it is, you're going to have an opportunity to make up free positions when people make mistakes, because generally speaking, that's what separates the mid from the upper, you know, not necessarily the pace, but the mistakes as well. And as you can see ahead, just 2 cars separate us from the lead, and it is the 2 Williams, which is bad for 2 reasons. One, because we're in a constructors fight with them, and seeing your 2 rivals first and second, generally not a good thing. And 2, because they're teammates, so the chances of them working together is pretty good. So they're not going to be fighting each other. They're going to save their resources, use each other's DRS, and then they have all the ERS to fight me. So it just means I have to have that much more of a pace advantage, you know? I can't just have enough of a pace advantage that they have to use more ERS, and I pass them when they don't have ERS, because the second place guy is just going to be able to sit in the first place guy's DRS the whole time. I hope this is a decent explanation of how being behind 2 teammates, it's why it's so difficult to get by them if they're playing well together, if they don't fight each other, which is why you don't see them do it in real F1, because it's even harder to follow and even harder to overtake. So this kind of a strategy, the effectiveness is just even more emphasized in the real world. But as you can see, we do have the pace advantage. We are able to close on P3. And like I said, generally, it doesn't matter if I don't have names on, but here I would kind of like to know which one's Timo and which one's Andrew. I can assume the one who's in front is Timo because he's the quicker driver, and it would make more sense that he's towing Andrew along, not vice versa. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because you just gotta race the best you can do and race the same against everyone, you know. I don't race anyone particularly harder or not. I just make my decision whether I should defend or not at that point of a race, and I do it to the best of my ability. I very much try as much as possible to play these races as a solo game, you know, as if I'm just on the track by myself trying to get the best time I can get and just racing around the other drivers as I feel like I need to. But here you can see he's making mistakes, at least through that left-hander. So maybe we'll be able to get enough of a run on him. And he gets loose coming out of the corner there. And the VSC comes out. And this is something that happens so often to me when I'm about to overtake someone, and then a safety car VSC comes out. Like, it's happened a couple times in this league now. It's happened so much in the other leagues I race in. It gets annoying, but at the same time, you know, I'm still calm at this point. Not even a third of the way through the race. And I'm basically right back to level pegging with Timo in this race, so it's still all to play for. And you can see it's already ending. I was about to fast forward a little bit, I forgot how quick this one ended.
Maintain positive delta until the green flags. Okay, clear.
Oh, that's delicious, folks. And here we are. Do we make the move here? I don't think we do. Make him go shallow, though. get the cut back because I know I can get the better run on the straight, and he bends it under the throttle. So that seems to happen to me a lot in this league, where if I'm behind anyone other than Timo, they dump it coming onto the throttle on the corner. I know it happened in Britain, it happened in Japan, and now it's happened here in France. I think literally every time I end up getting behind someone in these league races that's not Timo, they end up spinning right in front of me. Which is a free position, but you know, if they would ever spin right into me, ooh, that would just be one of those inconvenient things, you know, you hate to see it. Can't really plan for something like that. But now, can we get into Timo's DRS? We are heading to the later parts of the first stint, but being ahead, obviously always an advantage, because being ahead is where you want to finish.
4.2 seconds.
And as you can hear, we are already 4 seconds behind third place. Just still racing our race, hitting our marks. We know we got good pace because we caught up to both Williams when they were slipstreaming each other. So now it's about just getting into his DRS without burning all of our ERS, because then we won't be able to stay in his DRS probably. And do we have it here? I think we do have it here. Yes, we do. At this point, I'm like, alright, we're back in business. No problem. We got a little bit of a pace advantage. We've caught back up after making a mistake. You know, everything's looking good for us at this point. Not the best run through that corner there, through the right-hander. Missed the curb a little bit. But as you can see, this slipstream, I'm not even touching the ERS, and it is just pulling us right along. Even though I think I was running a little bit higher wing than most drivers on this track. But now, it's just playing the patient game, you know. In a situation like this, in a championship like this, I'm only going to try to take the overtake if it's there, if it's easy. I'm not going to try to force anything. Especially early on in a race like this, where we're going to be in each other's slipstream a lot, probably. So, come through the final corner. Will I decide to make the move down to front straight?
The gap is
You
less
can
than
do
a
it
second.
here.
They're on old
The
hards.
advantage can be
Their
if you got a
tyres are
pace
7
advantage
laps
through the
old.
corners.
The time last lap was
You can try to... Yeah, we are going to go for it here. You can try to build a little bit of a gap through the tricky section here coming up.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the hards.
As you can hear, we are approaching the pit window too, so being able to be ahead going into that can help a little bit, especially if you can have a good in-lap or a good pit exit and build the lead just that little bit more. Maybe even break out at the DRS. But something else that happens on the pit stop is it kind of resets the ERS a little bit. You gain a lot of it back, so as long as you weren't pretty much bang empty, you're going to be up to almost a full meter. And as you can see here, it looks like we have a little bit of a pace advantage through the corners, but on the straightaways, especially if I lose it on the throttle a little bit there, he's just going to pull it all right back. So it's going to be about having enough of that as a distance to him going onto the straight that he can't overtake me, but obviously that's going to be easier said than done today. But as the pit stop approaches, you can also think about maybe going for the undercut here. But I feel like at this point I wasn't really thinking about the undercut. It was too early on. That and the way I was able to catch up to the Williams gave me a lot of confidence that even if he undercut me by 1 lap, I'd be able to use the clean air to get back into his slipstream again and just essentially repeat the process. I feel like I was going to be in the same boat here as Britain, where I was towing him along, but I couldn't break him out of the DRS with the amount of slipstream that he gets throughout the lap. And we decided to come into the pits here at the end of lap 10. Timo does not follow us into the pits. So this was actually a big opportunity for us to have the undercut, to have the fresh tires while he's on the old tires, and maybe grow a greater than 1 second lead when he comes out of the pits. And at that point it'll be almost GG, as long as I don't use all my ERS doing so. He won't have the slipstream. I'll be able to just slowly cruise off with a little bit of pace advantage I have.
Pit strategy complete.
His overcut of 1 lap on hards would not give him, you know, that kind of advantage that he would need to make that gap back up. So the outlap here, very important, but also very difficult to judge in the first couple corners because you're on a different amount of fuel, a different tire. The car is always changing. You always got to be adapting to it. It's one of the most difficult parts of the race. come onto new tires and being bang on the pace right away. But so far, so good. And there's a really dumb warning. Nothing more to say about that one. There's a really dumb warning. And yeah, at this point, again, just feeling good about it. Everything's, other than me spinning, I mean, given that I spun, everything's been going pretty good. The pace is good, consistency's good, don't got any penalties. I get the undercut here on Timo, you know, can't be complaining one bit. But the key will be obviously when Timo comes out of the pits, we'll see what kind of gap we're working with here. As we push forward into this race, we are lap 14 now. Everything's still going good. Yeah, like I said earlier, on the hard tire, going to the end on him. Timo's in the same strategy. We're going to be out of his DRS. I don't even know if he pit at this point or not, but even if he did, we got the gap. And yeah, I thought this was turning into Italy. Oh yeah, by the way, Italy happened. I apologize for that. I had an issue saving the recording. I honestly don't know what happened that I don't have the recording. It was a really boring race. We won that race. That's basically the summary. Really boring race. We qualified pole. There wasn't a safety car. We got a good start and pulled a gap, and we just kind of cruised off in that one. And now, remember what I talked about earlier with Mr. Andrew? And I know that this video will also double down as my report. So I'm going to try to keep things as professional as possible here. But as soon as I saw him, it all put together in my brain what was going on. About why he randomly decided to switch to Williams for this race. And why someone on mediums had not pit yet. As you can see, he slows down on purpose. And now he purposely pulls over to let me go. To stick in my slipstream. And I knew that what he was doing is he was staying out and not pitting just to get in my way and slow me down for Timo. Which, someone coming from another team just to hold you up in a race, and that has to be true. And then yeah, there's the incident. As you can see, it just comes back at me after letting me through on purpose. Which I have no idea why he did. I mean, I know why he did. He did it just because he wanted to waste time for me. He wanted to just hold me up. That's all he's doing. That's the only reason he didn't pit. I mean, this is borderline. It's not collusion because Timo didn't know he was doing this. But it's manipulating the race. He team swapped just to hold me up. There is no way that what he was doing was anything other than holding me up, because the reason that he gave was saying to stay out longer for his race with the Ferrari. When is staying out 15 laps in a 27 lap race on mediums when you're doing mediums to hards? When that, in no way would that make any sense to do that. If anything, you would undercut him. The overcut doesn't work. This wasn't helping your race at all, and then why would you fight me after letting me go? That might make sense if you were just letting me go and then trying to stay in my slipstream so I kind of tow you along when you extend your stint to make up the time lost when you do the overcut. That would make sense, but then letting me go after purposely going slow in the last two corners before that and then fighting me? There's only one reason for that. That was to hold me up on purpose. You know, when you show just that corner where the collision happened like he did, it might look one way. But when you see the full thing in context, and explaining the incident further, because like I said, this doubles as my report. So going into it, obviously the rule is if you are significantly along someone, you're entitled to a car's worth of space. I was well more than significantly alongside. I was the whole way alongside. I gave him plenty of room on the inside. And you can tell by the way he broke into that corner, he had no intention of leaving me room on the outside. I was sticking to the outside lane. His intention was go off into the outside lane. Bap! Hits into me. We both spin. he caused a collision with the front runner. Did this, like, not the, I doubt he did the hit me part on purpose. And then, yeah, I spin in frustration, pushing too hard to try to make up for all my lost time. And at this point, the spin didn't matter at all. I'm going to end up second in the race anyhow. There's a big gap back to third. So I lose nothing by trying to push as hard as I can to see if I can make up the time to Timo. So it's inconvenient, but it happens. Yeah, like I was saying. Holds me up on purpose and then causes a collision. After switching to that team on purpose just to do this. Why else would you have switched to this team? Why else would you stay out on those tires for no reason? Why else would you go slow 2 corners and let me go? And then why else would you dive it instead of sitting back in my slipstream? It all adds up to only one possible reason for that. And it's honestly a damn shame, because I'm here having a good fight with Timo up front. And while we're having a championship fight too. And we just got this guy coming in just causing issues on purpose, which is super frustrating. And then to try to blame me afterwards too. That was really what sent me then. It was like, okay, you do all this, but then try to say, I shut the door on you. It's like, fucking what? I was as confused as a blind paraplegic having sex when I heard him say that. But yeah, now you've seen the incident from my perspective as well, in full context with explanation. I'm not a steward, but it's just unfortunate. This is something I see a lot in league races. I've had to report so many incidents, and it's just really frustrating. I wish that I could know that every time that there's a championship fight, you know that the best driver comes out and it's not manipulated by other drivers. I've seen so many leagues that I've raced in, and even ones that I've just like watched and not raced in, where championships get decided just because someone takes someone out on purpose, someone holds up one guy, lets another guy go. I understand working together within your team, but people not in your team, it's just... there's just no reason for it, honestly. And yeah, we're going to skip to the end of this race then. This is the end, basically. I'm in second. I'm not going to make up the time up front. I'm quicker than the car behind. And we're going to end second in this race, which is really unfortunate because Andrew is going to, I believe, come home in fourth, and we'll look at the final standings there then. But yeah, we lose a bunch of points in the Constructors' Championship as our teammate just didn't show up, and his reason for not showing up was because the second Williams driver wasn't going to show up, which why anyone else showing up or not showing up has anything to do with why you show up. Again, I was confused. It was just a night of pure confusion for me. It was honestly a whole week of pure confusion, but we're not going into all of that. But that's why we got a snake in the mud here to enjoy. So yeah, it's just a really bizarre race, this one. A really bizarre weekend. And hopefully things go back up for here. This league's run by good people with good intentions. I'm not trying to cause any issues. It's the last thing I'm trying to do. But when these things get brought up, we gotta address them. We gotta address them quickly. Because if we don't, you know, they're like those parasites in Rick and Morty. They start multiplying in your house in a hurry. So, yeah, I'm confident that attendance numbers are going to get better when certain people come back from their vacations. Drivers just don't not show up because someone else doesn't show up. I have no idea. We're gonna I heard we're gonna get more drivers in, possibly reserves. Obviously, they're erring on the side of caution on letting people in because they're testing everyone to get in. If you get into this league, you were tested to get into this league on driving standards. So, which is a great thing because quality over quantity. I'd rather race in a league like this where 8 to 10 people show up a day out of 16, and what do we had, like sometimes 12 to 14, than racing in leagues where I've raced in before. You'll get full grids, but you're also going to get 4 safety cars, and the winner's just going to be who is lucky enough to not get taken out by a back marker. So, yeah, this kind of stuff is what it is, but I'm sure it'll all get resolved. I'm confident of it. And yeah, here's the end of this race. We get second, Timo gets first. That was Vaughn, that was in the Ferrari, gets third. Andrew comes in fourth after whatever the hell that was. That part of the video was muted for a reason. because there was some suggestive language in there, let's put it that way. So, yep, that'll be the end of this one. Hey, at least it brings some entertainment to you guys by making the video different. It's not like Italy would have been, if it would have saved, or it would have been a really boring race. It's not like other races where it's just like, oh, someone spun, we win. Yeah, that was another good one, almost to the quality of Britain. So hopefully next week's race is good as well, and we'll see you guys later. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands right now.